Hello, my name is Dr. Alan Kerry and welcome to another podcast from the South Essex GP Training website. With me I have Dr. Sunil Gupta and we're going to discuss the topic of educational theory. Some of the topics we're going to cover in this podcast are the principles of effective adult learning, Kolb's learning cycle, motivations for learning and the Johari window. Sunil, can you start by telling us what are the key factors for adult learning?
Some of the key factors for adult learning are an environment where students feel safe and supported, where they're treated as peers, where there's self-directed learning, where students take responsibility for their own learning. There is pacing or intellectual challenge. There's active involvement in learning as opposed to passively listening to lectures, and there's regular feedback mechanisms.
Thank you. Can you outline Vela's 12 principles for effective adult learning?
Number 1, needs assessment. Learners need to participate in what is to be learnt. 2, safety. You need to provide a safe educational environment where learners feel comfortable with revealing their true inner feelings. 3, a sound relationship between learners and other learners and between learners and the teacher. 4, sequence and reinforcement. Carefully sequence what you're trying to teach in a logical way and reinforce key elements to help learners remember. 5, action with reflection, praxis, Praxis. Encourage a continual process of activity, followed by reflection, refinement, and then implementation, similar to Kolb's learning cycle, which we're going to discuss a bit later. 6, learners as subjects of their own learning. Respect learners as decision makers, which inevitably means you need to give them autonomy, i.e. freedom to be creative. 7, learning with ideas, feelings, actions, means exploring knowledge, skills and attitudes. 8, immediacy. Not only does learning have to be useful, it also has to be transferable to real life situations one is likely to encounter in the near future. 9, clear roles. Teacher and learner must know their own and each other's role in the learning process. For example, does the teacher give the impression of being an expert who is not to be questioned or disputed with, or are learners free to debate or disagree? 10, teamwork. Encourage collaboration, for example, through small group work. 11, engagement of the learners in what they are learning. And 12, accountability. You need to do some sort of evaluation or monitoring to check they are learning what was intended.
Thank you. What did Brookfield say about the principles of adult learning?
Brookfield said participation in learning must be voluntary. There should be respect for participants' self-worth, and that must be maintained. Facilitators and learners are engaged in a collaborative exercise. They are involved in a process of activity and reflection on that activity. The facilitation aims to foster a spirit of critical reflection and the nurturing of self-directed, empowered adults.
Thank you. I wonder if you could outline for us Gibbs' reflective cycle.
So the first thing is the description, what happened. That leads on to feelings, what were you thinking and feeling. That leads to evaluation, what was good and bad about the experience. That leads to analysis, what sense can you make of the situation, which leads to conclusion, what else could have been done, and that leads to an action plan. If it arose again, what would you do? And then it goes back to description.
Thank you. And what is Kolb's learning cycle?
Kolb's learning cycle is 1, experiencing, 2, reflecting, 3, conceptualizing, 4, experimenting. So experiencing is concrete experience, which leads to reflecting, i.e. observations and reflections, which leads to conceptualizing, formation of abstract concepts and generalization, which leads to experimenting, i.e. testing implications of concepts in new situations. So the other way to say is explore, analyse, decide and act.
Thank you. Could you discuss for us Maslow's hierarchy of needs and how that's applied to learning?
So Maslow's hierarchy of needs are physiological, safety, love stroke belonging, esteem and self-actualization. So physiological is making the learning environment pleasant, ambient, air-conditioned, enough refreshment breaks. Safety is non-threatening environment and setting ground rules. Love/belonging is promoting openness and communication, e.g. through small group work, valuing learners' life histories and experiences. Esteem is setting achievable tasks, giving positive feedback and support and encouraging autonomy. And self-actualization is encouraging problem solving, autonomy and free and creative thinking.
Thank you. What did Cantor say about the motivations for adults to learn?
Cantor said the motivations are professional advancement, and the other possible motivations could be to meet external expectations, to learn to better serve others, to make or maintain social relationships. Other possible motivations could be escape or stimulation or pure interest.
Talking about motivation, can you outline Keller's ARCS model for motivation?
ARCS stands for attention, relevance, confidence and satisfaction. Attention is hook the participants and stimulate an attitude of inquiry, e.g. ask questions, use their emotional or personal information, show relevance to their workplace. Relevance is make the educational session relevant to the learner's need. Explore the experiences of the group and build on that. In essence, show them what's in it for them. Confidence is create an educational ethos which promotes success, that they can do it and implement it back in the workplace environment. Reinforce when they are doing things well, urge them on. Your own positivity towards the task will infiltrate into others, and satisfaction is ensure they're enjoying the learning experience.
Thank you. What about Bloom's taxonomy? Could you tell us something about that?
So in Bloom's taxonomy, we're talking about lower order thinking skills, remember, understand, apply, and higher order thinking skill, analyze, evaluate and create. And a list of some of the action words, verbs linked to this hierarchy, which can be usefully employed when trying to write learning objectives / outcomes. So for remember, we're talking things like words like describe, state, define, identify, list, tell, state, tabulate, match, select, reproduce. So the next one is understand, and the kind of words which go with that is compare, contrast, distinguish, differentiate, interpret, predict, estimate, discuss, explain, paraphrase, restate, group, summarize and order. The next group is apply, and the kind of words associated with that are apply, transfer, use, classify, chart, demonstrate, illustrate, solve, calculate, modify, relate, articulate, construct and develop. So those were the three lower order thinking skills, remember, understand and apply. We then come on to the three higher order thinking skills, which are analyze, evaluate and create. And for analyze, we're talking about things like analyze, infer, correlate, arrange, connect, divide, separate, classify, order, compare, contrast, explain, illustrate, outline, break down, prioritize. So that was for the group analyze. For the evaluate group, we've got words like assess, measure, compare, rank, grade, decide, judge, appraise, criticize, defend, persuade, justify, convince, conclude, explain, summarize and refrain. And for the higher order thinking skill create, we've got words like combine, integrate, rearrange, compose, create, formulate, design, compile, devise, generalize, modify, substitute, speculate, anticipate, facilitate and negotiate.
This concludes part 1 of this presentation. Part 2 is also available here at YouTube, or you can find the link at www.southessexgptraining.co.uk.